My name is Ethan Rivers. 6 months ago, I was a delivery driver in the Cascade Mountains who discovered something impossible. A ritual circle of 47 remote cabins, strange requests that escalated into horror, and an entity beneath the earth waiting for me to complete a final delivery. I refused. I ran. Moved to Portland. Got a warehouse job. I thought I was done with isolated mountain routes forever. The warehouse paid minimum wage. The debt collectors who'd driven me to the Cascades 3 years ago kept calling. My ex-wife's lawyer kept sending letters. And every night I'd wake up, finding black feathers on my pillow, carved figures in my pockets, offerings that followed me even here. I'm 36 years old, trying to convince myself that what happened was isolation-induced psychosis. Anything rational. But rational doesn't explain the muddy handprints on my third-floor window. Rational doesn't explain why every Portland delivery company rejected my applications the moment they ran my background check. When Nina Torres from Rocky Mountain Express Delivery called, offering double my warehouse salary for specialized wilderness routes, I should have said no. But desperation is a hell of a drug. Northern Rockies territory, Nina explained. Extremely remote clientele. Most drivers can't handle the isolation. But your resume shows 3 years mountain delivery experience with Millbrook Depot. My hands went cold. Millbrook was the Cascade operation. How did she know? I left that work for a reason, I said carefully. $28 an hour plus hazard bonuses, fully equipped 4x4 with satellite communication. I closed my eyes, saw the late payment notices, heard my ex-wife's voice. You're always running from something, Ethan. She was right. And now I was running straight back into what I should have avoided. When do I start? 3 weeks later, I was back in the mountains. Different mountains, the Rockies instead of Cascades, but mountains nonetheless. The company outfitted my truck with survival equipment and a satellite phone that worked 60% of the time. The landscape was breathtaking. Jagged peaks, dense forests, valleys stretching for miles without human structures. It should have felt like freedom. Instead, it felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. The first delivery was 40 miles from the nearest paved road. GPS died after mile 30. I navigated by printed coordinates and familiar dread. When the cabin appeared, small weathered smoke rising from the chimney, my hands shook on the wheel just like they had at cabin 47. It looked nothing like the Cascade cabins. Different architecture, different region entirely. But the feeling was identical. That weight of silence, that sense of being watched, that wrongness that made your skin prickle. I sat in the idling truck, package beside me, and felt it. The pull, the same pull from the Cascades, the same presence that had called me to complete the circle. It had followed me here, or maybe I'd never left it at all. Maybe refusing that final delivery hadn't ended anything. Maybe it had just delayed the inevitable. The Northern Rockies route was different from the Cascades in every measurable way, yet fundamentally the same where it mattered. Rocky Mountain Express had equipped me better than Millbrook ever did. The truck was a modified Ford F350 with reinforced suspension, all-terrain tires that could handle snow, mud, and rock. The cargo bed held chains, a portable winch, flares, emergency rations, a medical kit, and enough fuel for 300 miles. Nina had been thorough during training. You're servicing clients who've chosen extreme isolation, she explained in the depot briefing room. Some are scientists, some are writers seeking solitude, Some are just people who want to be left alone. Your job is simple. Deliver the package, respect their privacy, leave. Simple, right? The satellite phone came with strict protocols. Use it only for emergencies or to confirm successful deliveries. The company tracked my location via GPS when signals permitted, but vast stretches of my route existed in dead zones where I'd be completely on my own. Average delivery time to the furthest cabin is 6 hours one way, Nina continued. Weather can extend that to 12. If you get stuck, hunker down and wait for conditions to improve. Don't try to be a hero. The route map showed 32 delivery locations spread across 200 square miles of wilderness. Most were seasonal, clients who only occupied their cabins during summer months, but 8 cabins received year-round deliveries. Those were my regulars. I studied their names during that first week. Hartman, Castellanos, Way, Morrison, Blake, Tucker, Reeves, Vance. The last name made me pause. Reeves. Same as the driver who'd quit the Cascades route before me, the one who'd lasted only 6 weeks. Coincidence, I told myself? I was getting good at lying to myself. The landscape should have been my salvation. Pristine wilderness, the kind of raw beauty that reminds you how small humans are, how vast the world remains beyond our cities. Elk grazed in meadows. Eagles circled overhead. The silence was broken only by wind through pine and the distant rush of snowmelt streams. But beauty doesn't erase wrongness. It just makes it harder to see coming. The first week, I completed 12 deliveries without incident. Standard procedure. Approach cabin, leave package as instructed. Document delivery with timestamp photo, drive away. No strange notes, no impossible requests, no figures watching from the trees. I started to relax. Started to think maybe Portland's paranoia had been just that, paranoia. Maybe this job would be different. Maybe what happened in the Cascades was isolated, unique, never to be repeated. By the second week, the déjà vu started. Small things at first. The way certain cabins were positioned, always facing away from the road, always with one window that seemed darker than the others. The way smoke rose from chimneys in perfectly straight lines despite mountain winds. The way my truck's engine would sometimes sputter and hesitate when approaching specific locations, then run fine once I left. I'd experienced all of this before. At cabin 14, the Morrison residence, I found myself counting my steps from the truck to the porch without consciously deciding to do so. 7 steps. Exactly 7. Just like cabin 18 in the Cascades. My hands were shaking when I placed the package down. No note waited for me, no instructions. But I counted to 30 before returning to my truck anyway. Old habits or old programming. The worst moment came at cabin 20, the Blake property. As I drove up the access road, I felt it. That presence, that weight in the air that had nothing to do with altitude or weather. I parked and sat there, engine running, staring at the cabin through my windshield. It looked normal, small log structure, covered porch, solar panels on the roof. Modern, reasonable, safe. But the feeling was unmistakable. The same feeling I'd had approaching cabin 47 6 months ago. Something was waiting inside. Not the resident. Something else. I delivered the package anyway, because that's what I do, that's what I've always done. I told myself it would be different this time, but deep down, I already knew. The circle wasn't finished with me. And now, somehow, it had followed me here, or I'd followed it, and the pattern was beginning again. Eleanor Hartman's cabin sat at the end of a 5-mile access road that hadn't seen maintenance in years. The approach was lined with handmade signs every 100 feet. Private property, no trespassing, surveillance in use, turn back now. Someone desperately wanted to be left alone. The cabin itself was fortified, security cameras mounted on trees, motion sensors visible on the porch, thick curtains covering every window, a heavy-duty lock on a reinforced door that looked like it belonged on a bank vault. I'd delivered 3 packages here over 2 weeks. Each time I'd followed the same routine. Approach slowly, place package in the designated metal box by the road, never on the porch, photograph it, leave immediately. I'd never seen Eleanor Hartman, never heard a voice. The cameras tracked my movement, red lights blinking, but no one ever emerged. Until the 4th delivery. I was placing the package in the box when I heard the door unlock. Multiple locks, actually. Click, 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 like someone unsealing a tomb. The door opened 3 inches. A chain held it there. Through the gap, I saw a woman's eye, wide, bloodshot, terrified. "You need to stop coming here," she whispered. Her voice was hoarse, desperate. "They're watching the deliveries, every single one. They're using you." My blood went cold. "Who's watching?" "You know who? You've seen them before, haven't you? In other places, other mountains." Her eye fixed on me with terrible intensity. "I can see it on you. The mark. You're one of their couriers now, whether you want to be or not." "I don't understand." "The packages. They're not what you think. What's inside doesn't matter. It's the act of delivery itself. The ritual of approach, of offering, of acceptance. You're completing transactions that have nothing to do with what's in the box." She knew. Somehow, she knew about the Cascades. "Don't come back here," Eleanor continued. "I won't accept anything else. I won't be part of their collection. Tell your company to remove me from the route." "What collection? What are you talking about?" But the door was already closing. Locks clicking back into place. Click, 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 click. I stood there in the snow, package still in my hands, heart pounding. 2 weeks later, I returned with another delivery. The company had ignored her request, or never received it. The door was open, swinging gently in the wind. Inside, the cabin was empty, furniture still in place, food in the refrigerator, coffee mug on the table still half full. But Eleanor Hartman was gone. The note started appearing 3 days after Eleanor vanished. Cabin 23. A recipient named Way. The package sat on my passenger seat, addressed and labeled normally. But when I arrived, there was a note pinned to the delivery box. Yellowed paper, careful handwriting, rust-stained nail, just like the Cascades. Deliver only when shadows are longest. Leave facing east. Count your breaths until you reach 21. My hands trembled as I read it. This couldn't be happening. Different company, different mountains, different clients entirely. But the handwriting looked identical to the notes from Cabin 47, Cabin 18, all the others. I checked the delivery timestamp requirements. Nothing unusual in the official instructions. This note was extra, personal, ritualistic. I could refuse, drive away, report it to Nina. Instead, I waited until late afternoon when shadows stretched across the snow, placed the package facing east, counted my breaths, 1, 2, 3, until I hit 21. As I reached my truck, I heard it, a whisper carried on wind that shouldn't exist in the still mountain air. "Thank you." The requests escalated quickly after that. Cabin 17. Hum while approaching. Any melody. Do not stop until package is delivered. Cabin 9. Walk backward for the final 10 steps. Do not turn around. Cabin 28. Deliver only during the hour between dog and wolf. You will know when. I knew that phrase. Twilight. The time between day and night when the world shifts and reality becomes uncertain. The hour when boundaries blur. Each note appeared despite my deliveries being randomly scheduled, despite no one knowing my exact arrival times, despite these cabins being miles apart with no communication infrastructure. Someone or something knew when I was coming. I started documenting everything, photographed every note before following the instructions, because I always followed them, even knowing what it meant, even understanding I was participating in something terrible. The compulsion was stronger than in the Cascades, or maybe I was weaker now, more broken, more willing to accept the impossible. At cabin 12, the note read, "Leave a coin with the package, any denomination, payment for passage." I didn't have change. Used a quarter from my cup holder, placed it on top of the package. The next morning I found the quarter back in my truck, on my dashboard. Except now it was an antique coin, dark metal, strange symbols, exactly like the ones from the Cascade Circle. They were paying me back, marking me, claiming me. Nina called that afternoon. "Ethan, we're getting complaints. Clients saying you're taking too long on deliveries, following strange procedures. What's going on?" "Following the notes," I said. "The instructions they leave." "What notes?" "There are no notes in our system. The ones pinned to their doors, their mailboxes. You must have..." "Ethan." Her voice went cold. "Are you okay? Do you need to take some time off?" I realized then I was the only one seeing them, just like before. I started keeping meticulous records, every delivery, every note, every cabin where recipients had vanished. By week 6, the pattern was undeniable. Eleanor Hartman disappeared after 4 deliveries. Cabin empty, door open, life interrupted mid-moment. Thomas Way, gone after 3 deliveries with special instructions. His cabin showed the same signs. Fresh coffee, half-eaten breakfast, books open on tables. Maria Castellanos at cabin 9. Vanished after I'd walked backward those final 10 steps. Her cabin revealed something worse. Photographs on the walls showing her over the years, progressively more isolated, more hollow-eyed. The final photo, dated 1 week before her disappearance, showed something standing behind her reflection in a window. Something tall, something wrong. I found it in every abandoned cabin. That final photograph, that shadow figure, they were being collected just like Eleanor had warned. And the packages kept coming. Orders placed for cabins with no occupants, deliveries scheduled to empty buildings. Someone, something, was continuing the transactions even after the recipients were gone. I called the local sheriff's office, reported the disappearances. "We're aware," the deputy said, his voice tired. "Remote living attracts unstable people. They wander off, get lost, succumb to elements. Happens every year. But their belongings..." "Mr. Rivers, we've investigated. No signs of foul play, no evidence of anything criminal. These people chose isolation. Sometimes isolation chooses them back." He didn't understand, or didn't want to. I mapped every cabin on my route where someone had vanished. 15 locations total. When I connected them on my route map with red string, my blood went cold. They formed a shape. Not a circle this time. A spiral, starting from the outer edge of my delivery territory, curving inward, tightening with each disappearance, leading toward the center, toward cabin 1, the address I'd never been assigned. The cabin that sat at the geographic center of my entire route. The one place I hadn't delivered to yet. The final destination. Just like the Cascades, there was a center, a completion point, an ending. And I was driving toward it with every delivery I made. I began documenting the abandoned cabins systematically, treating each one like a crime scene, even though the sheriff's department had ruled them as voluntary departures. Eleanor Hartman's cabin became my template. I photographed everything. The half-full coffee mug, still sitting on the kitchen counter. The book opened to page 247, reading glasses resting on top. The fireplace with ashes still warm when I'd first found it empty. Most disturbing was her journal, left on the bedside table. The final entry was dated the day before my last delivery to her. They come with the packages now. I see them in the trees when he arrives. Tall shapes that shouldn't exist. They're waiting for me to accept one more delivery, just one more. Then they'll have what they need. I won't give them the satisfaction. I won't. The entry ended mid-sentence. Pen still lying across the page. Thomas Way's cabin told a similar story. His laptop remained open, email draft unfinished. If you're reading this, I've been taken. The delivery driver doesn't know what he's doing. He's the conduit. Tell him to stop. Unsent. Incomplete. Like he'd vanished while typing. At Maria Castellanos' place, I found research materials spread across her dining table. Printouts about folklore, indigenous legends, delivery systems, and ancient rituals. She'd been investigating what was happening to her. One printout was highlighted repeatedly. The collectors use intermediaries unwittingly. Postal workers, messengers, anyone who travels between isolated places. The act of delivery creates pathways. The acceptance creates bonds. Together they complete the harvest. She'd understood. They'd all understood eventually, but understanding hadn't saved them. Every cabin showed the same pattern. Life interrupted mid-action. No packed bags. No signs of planning departure, just absence. As if they'd been erased from existence between one moment and the next. The food was always fresh. Electricity still running. Heat still on. These weren't cabins that had been abandoned for weeks. These were places where people had existed hours, maybe minutes, before I arrived. At cabin 17, I found something that made my stomach turn. Muddy footprints leading from the door to the center of the living room. Bare footprints, impossibly large, with too many toes. The prints stopped in the middle of the floor. No return path, just ended. As if something had walked in, taken what it came for, and simply vanished. I stopped sleeping through the night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Eleanor's terrified eye through that 3-inch gap. Thomas Way's unfinished email. Maria's highlighted research notes. The muddy footprints that ended in nothing. But worse than the images were the questions. Had I caused this? Was Eleanor right? Was I the conduit, the unwitting priest of some ancient transaction? Every package I delivered, every strange instruction I followed, was I feeding something, summoning something, completing rituals I didn't understand? The guilt was crushing. 15 people. 15 lives interrupted, ended, collected. And I'd been the common thread connecting them all. I started drinking to sleep. Whiskey in my motel room. Enough to dull the thoughts, but not enough to impair my driving the next day. A careful calibration of numbness. The nightmares came anyway. In them, I'd be making a delivery, approaching a cabin with a package in hand. But when the door opened, It wasn't a recipient standing there, it was me. My own face, hollow-eyed and wrong, smiling with too many teeth. "Thank you for the delivery," Dreamy would say. "Now come inside. Complete the circle." I'd wake up gasping, sheets soaked with sweat, finding new offerings on my nightstand. Feathers, coins, carved figures I'd thrown away days before. They were in my room now, getting closer. My hands developed a tremor. Not constant, but noticeable when I held the steering wheel or tried to write in my journal. Stress, I told myself. Lack of sleep. Nothing supernatural. But I knew better. I'd lost weight. My reflection in the motel bathroom mirror showed a man I barely recognized. Gaunt. Shadows under eyes that had seen too much. A haunted quality that reminded me of Eleanor in that brief glimpse through her door. I was becoming like them, the collected ones, hollowed out from the inside. Nina called weekly now, concern replacing her usual efficiency. "Ethan, your delivery times are erratic. You're missing check-ins. The clients who can reach us say you seem unstable." "I'm fine," I lied. "Maybe you should come back to the depot, take a break. This route isn't for everyone." But I couldn't stop. Because stopping meant abandoning the investigation. Stopping meant letting more people vanish without anyone noticing the pattern. Stopping meant they'd just find another driver, another unwitting courier, to continue what I'd started. I was complicit. But maybe I could also be the one to end it, if I could just understand what they wanted, what the spiral led to, what waited at cabin 1. I began cataloging the evidence systematically, treating the abandoned cabins like archaeological sites. Every detail mattered. Every clue could be the key to understanding what was happening. The common elements appeared in every location. Doors left open, not forced, not damaged, simply open from the inside and never closed again, as if the occupants had walked out willingly and immediately ceased to exist. Food and drink consumed part way, coffee cooling in mugs, meals half-eaten on plates, bottles of water opened but not finished, life interrupted at its most mundane moments, no footprints leading away. The snow outside every cabin remained pristine, except for my own tracks and those impossible barefoot prints that appeared and vanished without origin or destination. Personal items undisturbed, wallets with cash and credit cards, phones fully charged, keys hanging on hooks. Nobody planning to leave takes nothing with them. But the photographs were the most disturbing evidence. In every cabin I found them, recent photos, printed or displayed on screens, showing the residents in their final days. And in every single image, if you looked carefully enough, you could see them. Shadows in windows that had no source, shapes between trees in the background that were too tall, too thin, reflections in mirrors showing figures that shouldn't be there. At first they were subtle, easy to dismiss as tricks of light or camera artifacts. But as the dates on the photos progressed closer to the disappearances, the figures became clearer, bolder, more present. In Thomas Way's final selfie, taken the morning he vanished, you could see 3 of them standing directly behind him, tall, motionless, waiting. He'd been smiling in that photo, unaware, or perhaps aware but resigned. I found Maria's laptop still running, battery nearly dead. Her photo folder was open to a series of images she'd taken around her cabin. They were time-stamped in sequence, one every hour for 3 days before she disappeared. The progression was horrifying. First photo. Cabin exterior, nothing unusual. 6th photo. A shadow visible at the tree line. 12th photo. The shadow had moved closer. 18th photo, multiple shadows forming a circle around the cabin. 24th photo, the shadows at her windows. Final photo taken 1 hour before I'd found her cabin empty. Her living room. The frame showed her couch, her coffee table, and standing in the corner of the room, clear as day, one of them. Impossibly tall. Wrong proportions. Watching the camera with what might have been a smile. She'd known they were there, she'd documented their approach, and she'd stayed anyway, or perhaps she couldn't leave. Perhaps once they marked you, once you accepted enough deliveries, escape became impossible. The thought that terrified me most. They were in all my delivery photos too. Detective Laura Whitmore's office smelled like stale coffee and resignation. She listened to my story with the practiced patience of someone who'd heard too many impossible things from people living too long in isolation. "Mr. Rivers," she said when I finished, "I've reviewed the missing persons reports. 23 cases in 5 years across this region. All remote cabin dwellers, all receiving regular deliveries before disappearing." My heart jumped. "So you believe me?" "I believe the pattern exists." She pulled out a worn file folder. "What I don't believe is supernatural intervention. These are people who chose extreme isolation. Mental health deteriorates, judgment fails. They wander into the wilderness and succumb to elements. But their belongings are exactly where they left them because they experienced psychotic breaks. It happens." She leaned forward. "Look, I understand the guilt you're feeling. You think you're somehow responsible, but you're not. You're just the delivery guy. Just the delivery guy. The unwitting courier, the conduit. What about the notes?" I pressed. "The specific instructions?" "What notes?" "You're the only one who's reported seeing them. Your company has no record of special delivery requests." The room felt colder. "You think I'm making this up?" "I think you're experiencing stress-induced hallucinations. This job is clearly affecting your mental state. My recommendation, quit. Go back to Portland. Get some therapy." She didn't understand. Or couldn't. I left her office and drove to the regional library, a small building at the edge of Clearwater, the closest thing to a town my route had. If the authorities wouldn't help, maybe history would. The librarian, an elderly man named Robert, directed me to the local history section. "Looking for anything specific? Disappearances, folklore, anything about collectors?" His expression changed, not surprise, but recognition. "You're the new delivery driver." "How did you—" "We get one every few years. They all come here eventually looking for answers." He pulled a book from the shelf. "This might help, or make things worse. Hard to say which." The book was old, self-published, titled Forgotten Peoples, Indigenous Legends of the Northern Rockies. Author, Dr. James Caldwell. "Is he still alive?" I asked. "Lives about 40 miles north. Retired anthropologist. Studied these mountains for decades." Robert's eyes held something like pity. "Fair warning, most people who visit him don't like what they learn. Some things are better left unknown." But I'd already seen too much. Unknown was no longer an option. I drove north to find Dr. Caldwell. Dr. James Caldwell lived in a cabin that made my delivery locations look modern. No electricity, no running water, just wood smoke, candlelight, and walls covered in maps, photographs, and newspaper clippings documenting decades of disappearances. He was 70, maybe older, with a white beard and eyes that had seen things he wished he hadn't. "You're the delivery driver," he said before I could introduce myself. I wondered when you'd come. They always do, eventually. He invited me inside. The cabin smelled like old paper and pine smoke. On his desk lay my route map, identical to mine, but his was marked with red circles, dates, and notes spanning decades. The indigenous peoples called them the collectors. Caldwell began, pouring weak tea into chipped mugs. Entities that exist in the spaces between human presence. They feed on isolation, loneliness, the desperate human need for connection that paradoxically drives people into wilderness. What are they? Old, older than human settlement here. The native tribes built the stone circles to contain them, to mark boundaries they couldn't cross. Then white settlers destroyed the circles, thinking them pagan. They didn't understand the circles weren't for worship, they were prisons. He showed me photographs of archaeological sites, stone circles destroyed centuries ago that matched exactly the locations of modern cabin clusters. The entities adapted, Caldwell continued. They learned new patterns, new rituals. Postal routes replaced song lines. Delivery schedules replaced seasonal gatherings. They found new intermediaries. Delivery drivers, precisely. You create pathways, your regular routes, your scheduled arrivals, your physical act of bringing packages. It's all ritual to them. Ancient transaction updated for modern infrastructure. He pulled out a map showing delivery routes across multiple states. Each route, when traced, formed geometric patterns. Spirals, circles, symbols that predated written language. Every expansion of delivery services into remote areas creates new opportunities for them. They mark recipients, patient, waiting, building connection through repeated contact until the bond is strong enough for collection. How do I stop it? Caldwell's expression darkened. You don't. The system is too large, too integrated, thousands of routes, millions of deliveries. You're one courier in a network that feeds them constantly. But the people are already marked. Once you've delivered to them, 3 times the bond forms. By the 5th delivery, it's irreversible. They become visible to the collectors, targeted for harvest. My hands shook. I've delivered to some locations 8, 9 times. Then they're already gone, or will be soon. The spiral you've noticed, it's not random, it's intentional. Each collection strengthens the next. Each disappearance feeds the pattern. And at the center, cabin 1, the nexus point, where the spiral completes, where the strongest entity waits. He met my eyes. Tell me you haven't been assigned there yet. Not yet. When you are, and you will be, refuse, drive away, quit the job, because once you complete that delivery, you won't just be the courier anymore. You'll become part of the collection. Caldwell spread additional documents across his desk. Research papers, hand-drawn maps, photographs spanning decades. The pattern isn't just Northern Rockies, he explained. I've documented similar phenomena across North America, Europe, rural Asia. Wherever delivery infrastructure reaches isolated populations, the collectors follow. He showed me a timeline. The expansion of postal services in the 1800s coincided with unexplained disappearances in remote areas. The growth of package delivery in the 20th century saw the pattern accelerate. Modern same-day delivery services had made it exponential. They're everywhere now, Caldwell said grimly. Your Cascade circle wasn't unique. Neither is your current route. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of active collection sites, each with its own courier, its own spiral, its own center cabin. The scope was overwhelming. This wasn't a local phenomenon. It was global, systematic, and I was just one small piece. Why drivers? I asked. Why not just take people directly? Rules, old rules from when the stone circles contained them. They can't simply take, they need permission, acceptance. The ritual of delivery provides that. Someone orders a package, accepts it, acknowledges the transaction, 3 times creates the mark, 5 times seals the bond. After that, they're claimed. A knock at the door interrupted us. Caldwell's expression went grim. A man stood there, mid-40s, grief etched deep in his features. "Dr. Caldwell, I'm Owen Blake. You left a message about my sister." My blood went cold. "Blake, cabin 20, one of my regular deliveries." "Mr. Blake," Caldwell said gently, "come in. This is Ethan Rivers, the current courier for your sister's route." Owen's eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made me step back. "You delivered to Sarah? You were the last person to see her?" Yes, several times, but I never saw her directly. She left notes, instructions. She was terrified." Owen cut me off. "Her last message to me said the delivery driver was bringing them, that they came with the packages, that she couldn't escape." His voice broke. "She begged me to stop the deliveries. I thought she was having a breakdown." The guilt crushed me. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't. My sister has been missing for 8 months. No body, no trace, nothing except her cabin exactly as she left it, like she just evaporated." Caldwell placed a hand on Owen's shoulder. "They all have." Owen looked at us both. How many? How many people have vanished?" "At least 23 on this route alone," I whispered. Owen's face went pale, then hard. "Someone needs to stop this." We all knew who that someone had to be. I couldn't look at myself in mirrors anymore. Every reflection showed someone I didn't recognize. Hollow eyes, gaunt cheeks. The same haunted expression I'd seen in Eleanor Hartman's photographs, in Maria Castellanos' final selfie, in all of them before they vanished. I was becoming like them, marked, claimed, collected. Sleep was impossible without alcohol. Even then, the nightmares came. I'd wake at 3 in the morning, certain I heard footsteps circling my motel room, certain I saw tall shapes standing at my window, certain I felt their presence getting closer with each passing night. The tremor in my hands had spread. My left eye twitched constantly. I'd lost 15 pounds I couldn't afford to lose. Food tasted like ash. Everything tasted like ash. Nina stopped calling. The company sent emails instead, clinical and distant, documenting my failures, missed delivery windows, unexplained delays, customer complaints about my disturbing behavior. But I couldn't stop delivering, because stopping meant abandoning the investigation. It meant more people would vanish while I ran away again. I'd run from the Cascades. Look where that got me. The offerings appeared everywhere now, in my truck, my motel room, my pockets. Feathers and coins and carved figures that multiplied no matter how many times I destroyed them. They were marking me. Not just as courier anymore, as the next collection. Owen Blake's words haunted me. Someone needs to stop this, but I was already too far gone, too marked, too claimed. Maybe I couldn't stop it. Maybe I could only document it, bear witness, and pray someone would listen. I started warning them, every recipient I could reach, against company policy, against every instinct of self-preservation. At cabin 7, I knocked instead of just leaving the package. When the door cracked open, I said, "Don't accept this, please. I know it sounds crazy, but accepting deliveries here is dangerous." The woman, Reeves, the name that had haunted me, stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "I ordered this. It's just vitamins. It's not about what's inside, it's about the act itself. The pattern, please just refuse it. She slammed the door, took the package anyway. 2 weeks later, her cabin was empty. At cabin 14, I tried again. Left a note with the package. Do not accept. Move away. This place is not safe. The note was there on my next delivery. Ignored. The package gone. Some believe me. Cabin 22 refused their next delivery. When I returned a month later, they were still there. Alive. Safe. But most didn't listen. Couldn't conceive that something so mundane as receiving a package could be deadly. Rocky Mountain Express threatened termination. Stop harassing clients or you're done. I didn't care anymore. Every delivery I made felt like sending someone to their death. Every package was a death sentence I was complicit in delivering. The choice became impossible. Keep my job and feed the collectors, or quit and let another unwitting driver take my place. Either way, people would die. What are the collectors, really? Ancient entities? Interdimensional predators? Manifestations of human isolation given terrible form? I don't know. Maybe I'll never know. Why do they need the ritual? Why can't they simply take? Caldwell mentioned old rules, boundaries established by stone circles. But who made those rules? And what happens if they're broken completely? Can the pattern be stopped? Destroyed? Or is it too embedded in modern infrastructure? Too widespread across continents? Every night I lie awake with these questions circling my mind like vultures. The worst question haunts me most. Am I still human? Or have I become something else? A hybrid creature marked so deeply by their touch that I exist between worlds, not quite collected, not quite free. I feel the pull constantly now, not just toward cabin 1, but toward them. An urge to stop fighting, to accept, to complete the transaction and finally understand what happens to those who vanish. Maybe that's their final trap, not force, but seduction, making the collection seem like relief. If you're listening to this, you live remotely, you receive packages, pay attention, count your deliveries. 3 creates the mark. 5 seals the bond. After that, you're visible to them. If packages arrive that you didn't order, refuse them. If your delivery driver seems desperate to warn you, listen. If you start seeing shadows that shouldn't exist, move immediately. I'm still driving the routes, still delivering, because someone has to witness. Someone has to remember the disappeared, and maybe, somehow, that matters. The assignment came this morning, cabin 1. Final delivery, the spiral completes tomorrow. I don't know if I'll refuse, I don't know if I can, but if I vanish, if this recording is all that's left, remember, the collectors are real, and they're waiting for your next delivery.